All right, Mike Bohn here, joined today by a very special guest, Michael Venom Page, who is just a couple days removed from his Bellator 281 interim title fight with Logan Storley. Michael, a lot of talk about this decision coming off this loss. I guess just first of all, now that you've had a couple days to think about it and soak it in, reflect, how do you feel about the fight and obviously the decision?
Yeah, for me, this is a multitude of different kind of emotions and so on and so forth. But I always like to put as much things that's happened on myself. For me, I needed to be better at kind of not being held down. And there's a few things that I feel like I could have done in retrospect better. A few decisions that I made that I could have done better, and that could have guaranteed me the win. But at the same time, it's also weirdly enough exciting for me because it's like all I have to do is fix one thing in my game, and I become the most dangerous person in MMA. That's how I see it. People do not want to be in front of me while I'm doing what I do. So it's kind of exciting. I'm like ready to get straight back to work.
Did you get a chance to watch it? And if so, like what rounds do you feel you won? If so, do you feel that the decision should have gone your way when you were up there? Did you think they were going to say your name?
Yeah, I haven't actually watched it back properly, but it's weird. My family was actually sitting down watching it, and I was kind of doing a couple of bits and pieces, kind of tapping in and out. And they were like, "Yeah, no, 100%." I think they said two, so 1, 3, and 4, or something, or 2, 3, and 4, something like that. But again, the fact is, I can kind of go over stuff, but for me, I didn't get the result that I wanted, and there's things that I could have done better. So, like I said, I like to put it on myself, and just I'm gonna watch it back and see. And it's always difficult for referees in the moment to make those kind of decisions. And maybe I wouldn't be surprised if some of the referees themselves watched it back and thought, yeah, you know what, maybe I could have. But it's difficult. It's a difficult, they have a difficult job.
Yeah, and obviously a lot of people have their different opinions, but one that's kind of stood out in the aftermath of this was Scott Coker, who
Mm.
usually does not say, like, speak out very boldly one way
Yeah,
or another on anything when it comes to the
yeah.
record. But he says, and I quote, "You can't just lay there on someone and think you're going to win and score
Mm.
points because that's not MMA, that's wrestling. I thought MVP won the fight," unquote. When you hear
So
that, what do you make?
it's funny actually. So a good friend of mine, Derek Chisora, he kind of simplified it, and he was like, I don't really understand MMA enough to know how the intricacies of how to score a fight, but he's like, well, you hit him a loads more and he didn't really do much damage on the floor, so that's the only reason why I'd give it to you. And when you kind of break it down as simply as that, it's like, yeah, I understand that view, but I'm also in a game where grappling is a big thing, wrestling is a big thing. So it's it's difficult for me to then turn around and be annoyed by grappling. I feel like the wrestling element of things should be a tool to use for to create more damage and to try to win a fight, not be something that allows you to survive a fight. And yeah, I definitely don't feel you should win that way. But at the same time, it is part of the game. I've spoken about this to many people. I do think there's too many grey areas in the sport, which is why one referee can say something so different to the other referee watching exactly the same thing. Um, so it's definitely something that I feel the sport in general needs to fix in terms of what is more important, during a fight. But I definitely came to win, and I do believe he kind of came to survive. So, I understand why people feel the way they feel.
There's a lot of talk these days about open scoring in MMA. If you had known kind of going into those third, fourth, fifth rounds exactly where you stood, is that something that you would prefer? Is that one of the changes you would like to see in regards to MMA scoring?
So what's funny actually? I spoke about this again. I had a couple of interviews where we've spoken about this before, and the open scoring. I'm actually a fan of, but not for the same reasons why a lot of people are. Unselfishly speaking, it's more so. I've always been an advocate for trying to draw more people to the sport. Yeah, and very few people can name another sport where if I was to flick through channels and fall across an MMA fight midway through, there's very few sports where you can do the same thing and not know what's going on immediately. This is the only sport where you can flick a channel, change to that channel, not quite know what's going on, and make it. That's naturally, if you're not into that sport, it will make you want to continue moving, continue flicking the channel. Whereas I feel like if we did have a live scoring thing, aside of the fighters, just from a fan perspective, it also helps educate fans on how things are scored. It also, again, like I said, in those moments that people are not quite sure about the grappling, when they see points going up for certain things, they will, again, it will educate them way better and probably get more people into the sport. From the fighter's perspective, I think it will make fights more exciting. You look up and you know exactly what's going on. It really is going to make you, work a different way. If you're unsure, you're kind of guessing. It's all guesswork, which is kind of the situation I found myself in. But I always like to go for the kill. I could have played it a bit more safe and a bit more tactical, and just played, how I kind of played in round 4. And I realized that he was struggling to get me. But I'm an entertainer. I want to go for the kill. So, it's just, it maybe if I saw that, potentially I might have changed. But it's hard to kind of draw that side out of me.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of interesting to see what the evolution is going to be over time. But I know you mentioned a key thing that would have helped you won would be the wrestling, and that's what you want to shore up even more. When it comes to a guy like a Logan Storley or like the Amasovs out there, the ones who have been doing it, since they were a child, and that's time you obviously can't just make up. What do you do in your mind to cut that gap in half, even though you may not have the time, but there's other things you can do? Like, how in your mind, what changes do you need to make to win a fight like this?
So for me, it was, there's a couple of things that he did very well, technically, that people might not see from the outside. Technically, he just did very well, because as good as he is at wrestling, he struggled to really keep me down on the floor. I think it's only the 5th round where he actually had like total control, and even then couldn't really do much. I actually felt like I was more active off my back than he was on top. He was literally almost just desperately hugging me just to prevent me from getting back up, because he knew how dangerous I am elsewhere. He wasn't able to kind of go for any submissions. He wasn't able to land too much. So I feel like I'm heading in the right direction, because for somebody that has been doing it so long, he still couldn't dominate me in the way that, outside of just stopping me from doing much myself. He couldn't really progress and land anything himself. Like I said, he was doing it to prevent damage versus actually cause damage, which I feel like is what we need to look at, as if we're talking about judges and stuff. So I'm definitely heading in the right direction. There's a few things that, like I said, he did really slick that I was really impressed by. So like I said, just get straight back to the drawing board and figure those few things out. And 100%, if that was to happen again, it'd be a different fight.
So what do you want to happen next? Because I know, when you lost to Douglas Lima, that rematch was something that really meant a lot to you, and you did all the work you could possibly do to put in, earn that, and get in yourself position. Is this a fight and an outcome that kind of sticks with you the same? Obviously a different kind of loss, but is your passion going forward to try to get that rematch, or do you look at kind of different goals from here?
I'm a very petty person. Like he's won, but not in any kind of spectacular fashion. I've had harder spars, and the reason I say it that way is because physically, I don't have a bruise, I don't have a sore, I don't have an ache, anything. It doesn't even feel like I've had a 5-round fight. That's probably the most frustrating thing about it, is losing in a way where I know for a fact he couldn't go. I could go into a fight again this weekend and feel fine and be good to go. I know he couldn't say the same thing. And it's weird that he's won the fight. If we was to both stand next to each other, and somebody else, and we said that we had a fight and nobody knew what was going on, they would assume I had won that fight. So yeah, exactly the same as last time. I want to get it back. So I'm going to be pushing, working, putting on more fights until I'm able to get back to that position.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I think, being real with you, coming off a fight like this, people obviously they want to tune into you to see, the spectacular knockouts and all that stuff, the MVP stuff. But I know as a martial artist, you obviously want to improve, you want that belt and all that stuff. And it seems like to get there, these are the type of fights that you are going to have to get into and fight these type of guys. So like, how do you feel about that? Like the fans' reaction and the hope of what they want with you mixed with kind of what you need to do in order to fight these certain type of guys who are clearly the very elite of the division.
For me, again, it's the quicker I get to that level where I am able to nullify them trying to nullify me, the more problematic at that point I can be MVP near enough the majority of the fight, and that is a problem for every person in it. I don't care what organization, any person that is in front of me at my weight, I'm destroying them because you know, and you can see by even his response at the end about how I can't stand in front of you. You know, he's almost in frustration. It's like you can't stand in front of this guy. This guy's playing basketball in front of me and hitting me, like all this stuff that he was saying. It shows like this is guy that he kind of said like he's never faced anything like that. And for me, it brings me excitement to know like I said, I only have one thing to fix. And seriously, the guys, as soon as I get it and I'm back in, it is a problem, and it just means like I said, I can be me for the whole fight, which is a problem for everybody, and then more exciting for all of my supporters, all of my fans.
And just a couple last things before I let you go. I really appreciate the time. So perfect world, when do you fight again? I know you said you would be ready to go next week, but in like a maybe realistic world, and is there a name out there that makes sense to you?
Oh, I generally don't care. I'm going to get back to the drawing board for the wrestling side. I do want to get back in as quickly as possible. There's also potential I might, try and jump in and get a boxing fight just to stay active, because I really do want to work on my wrestling in between. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to jump back in and have the similar kind of fight, So obviously, depending on the opponent, if it's going to be a bit more of a mixed martial artist instead of somebody that's very one-dimensional, maybe I'll take that fight. If not, it's going to be someone. If not, I'm going to take my time to do my wrestling, do my work, improve myself, and like I said, maybe take a boxing fight in between.
And just lastly, on kind of a lighter note, I know not the result that you wanted, but I'm sure this fight week again was pretty special for you. Being back in London, you had the great walkout, all this different stuff. I guess, how did this one, fight aside, result aside, actually compare to the other ones? Like, how special was it throughout the week for you?
Yeah, it was nice because I came out with my brothers again, and it's like kind of coming full circle from when he started. This is why I wanted to kind of finish with the people that I kind of started with. And had my family over, and even afterwards, it's great. Like I had nothing to. Everyone that no one likes losing, so there's a bit of frustration there. After I had got that out of the way, we was partying, we had a great time with all my friends. I had so much love and support from just everybody. It was just so nice. And like I said, I'm just eager to get back. I'm still chilling. We've got family here now. Still just gonna have a bit of family time before they head back, and then that's it. Straight back to the drawing board for me.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's not always easy to come talk about these losses, especially one that was probably a pretty bitter pill to swallow like that one. But I always admire the fact that you fighters are willing to come do this. So it means a lot that you take a few minutes, man.
Thank you, man. No problem. Thank you for having me.